Sue Bird just threatened to fire Angel Reese from Team USA. Not hint at it, not suggest it, threatened it. Bird is now the managing director of Team USA, and she looked at everything Reese has been doing this offseason. The red carpets, the podcast rants, the salary complaints, and she drew a line. What she actually said is going to stop you cold, because it's not the kind of thing legends usually say out loud. And while all of this is happening, Caitlin Clark is in a gym somewhere. No cameras, just reps. Let's talk about where both of these paths actually lead. Should Sue Bird fire Reese from Team USA? Let me know down in the comments below. Here's a weird question. When was the last time you saw Angel Reese just playing basketball? Not a choreographed highlight, not a clip that cuts away right before the miss. Just actual basketball. Scroll through her off-season content and try to find it. It's not there. What is there? Red carpets, outfits, podcast appearances where she talks about everything except her jump shot, Instagram posts that go up, get traction, and then quietly disappear when the comments turn ugly, and a steady stream of complaints about WNBA salaries, framed like she's leading some kind of movement, but landing more like someone who discovered that controversy gets clicks.
You post that, you're looking for all of the comments. Why post the photo? If you don't want the likes, the comments, the thirst, the simps, the haters, all of the above, don't post the photo.
Look, none of this is automatically a problem. Players build brands. That's real, and it's smart when it's done right. Endorsement deals, media presence, public profile, these things matter, and the best players in the league know how to manage all of it. So just showing up on a red carpet isn't the issue. The issue is what's missing on the other side of the scale. Because here's where it gets interesting. Some of Reese's own fans, people who were excited enough about her to actually spend money on her Reebok shoes, are now asking for refunds. That's not just a bad week on social media. That's people who bought into the brand deciding the product isn't delivering. And when that starts happening, it's worth paying attention to because fans who ask for refunds are fans who were genuinely let down, not just people who never believed in the first place.
You know what I love watching? I love watching her highlights of missing shots. She's got to be the worst shooter you've met in your life. But go, Rob, just go, give this feedback. Give this feedback here. Go for it.
Season 2, I can't wait to work with you some more. The biggest advice I have for you is going to be how you shoot your layups, period.
Layups? Bang! What do you mean? She's our double-double queen! Bang! What they say, if it's broke, don't fix it. Bang! Teaching Angel Reese to make a layup is like teaching an old dog a new trick. It ain't gonna work. Bang!
Hey, welcome to McDonald's. What can I get you?
Have the Angel Reese McBang!
Picture this. You buy a player's shoe because you believe in what she does on the floor. You've watched the highlights, you've seen the posts, you're in. Then the offseason comes and your feed is full of fashion content and salary rants and nothing that looks like a player getting better. At some point, you start asking yourself what you actually paid for. The workout clips are part of this conversation too. There have been some gym posts, there always are, but if you look closely, they're cut in a very specific way. You're seeing the makes, you're not seeing the full session. There's a big difference between showing your work and showing only the version of your work that looks good, and people notice that difference more than some athletes seem to think.
A lot of the videos we see with Caitlin Clark, she's got actual men, grown men out there in her face trying to keep her from making shots and this and that and the other. There's not a lot of hands in Angel Reese's face here. And I am confused by the fact that she's trying to become this long-range player, it looks like. This is... she plays under the basket, or we thought she was playing under the basket.
The salary rhetoric is doing its own kind of damage too. Reese has been pushing hard on WNBA pay, which on its own is a fair conversation to have. The pay structure in the league is a real issue that real players deal with. But the way she's been doing it, loud, pointed, framing herself as the face of the fight, has reportedly been creating friction in the CBA talks rather than helping move them forward. Veteran players around the league are not thrilled about it. And when the veterans aren't backing you up on the thing you're claiming to lead, that's a problem. So what does Angel Reese's offseason actually look like? Red carpets, deleted posts, edited gym clips, and a lot of noise about money. Everything except the one thing that actually moves the needle, which is getting better at basketball.
Reese has been vocal about her low WNBA salary, revealing her $74,000 a year salary doesn't cover rent, stating on Instagram Live, "I just hope you know that the WNBA doesn't pay my bills at all. I don't even think they pay one of my bills." Reese's financial struggles stem from WNBA salary not matching her past earnings, as her NIL valuation at LSU was $1.8 million, bolstered by deals with Reebok, PlayStation, McDonald's, and Coach, while a 4-year rookie deal was $324,000 with $74,000 due next season.
I just hope y'all know the WNBA don't pay my bills at all. I don't even think that pays one of my bills. Let me do the math real quick.
He might cover that. Yeah, it covers that. It definitely covers that.
What is I don't even know my salary.
And while all of that is going on, there's another player out there doing charity events, playing some golf, spending time with the people she cares about, and also, very quietly, putting in serious work in the gym. No drama attached to it, no post designed to go viral. Caitlin Clark is just working, and the difference between those two approaches is going to show up in a very real way. Sue Bird isn't someone who throws words around. 4 WNBA championships, 5 Olympic gold medals, 20 years of professional basketball where she consistently made the right play at the right time. So when she steps up and says something publicly about a younger player's priorities, people in the league stop and listen. And what she said was pretty direct. Basketball has to be the main thing. Not your brand, not your podcasting, not your red carpet schedule. Basketball. She wasn't whispering it either. She put it out there in a way that was clearly aimed at the conversation happening around Reese's offseason, and everyone in the sport understood exactly what she was pointing at.
It's really fun, rewarding, and also interesting to watch these younger athletes step into their professional careers. Obviously, Caitlin and Angel are 2 great examples.
Here's where it gets interesting, though. Bird isn't just a retired legend with strong opinions. She's the managing director of Team USA. That's an actual position with actual power. She decides who gets selected for the national team program, who stays on the roster, and yes, who gets removed. This isn't a podcast take. This is her job. So let's talk about what Team USA actually means for a player like Reese. It's not just a jersey you get to wear in the summer. It's a platform that puts you in front of a global audience. It's a revenue stream that connects to your endorsement value. It's a career accelerant that makes your name bigger than what your WNBA team alone can do for you. Losing that spot doesn't just hurt your feelings, it cuts directly into the brand that Reese has been spending her entire offseason building. The math on that is brutal.
Right, like so much earlier, these athletes are thinking about themselves as businesses, as brands. And it's amazing because they're carrying that with them to the WNBA, and so everything's just bigger.
Bird's point was basically this. Everything Reese is out there doing right now, the appearances, the deals, the media presence, all of it only exists because there's a basketball player underneath it. That's the foundation. And if the foundation starts to crack because the basketball isn't being taken seriously, the whole thing comes down. The red carpets don't book themselves for someone who used to play basketball. And Bird has watched this happen before. She played in this league for 2 decades. She saw players get pulled into the off-court machine, start chasing the attention, and slowly lose the sharpness that made them worth paying attention to in the first place. She's not guessing that this is a risk. She's seen it play out enough times to recognize the early signs, and she's recognizing them right now with Reese.
But now they're in that world. And so my only advice is usually just to make sure they keep basketball the main thing, because at the end of the day, that is your vehicle. It's your vehicle to, Angel Reese has a podcast. It's her vehicle to be a podcaster, right? Whatever Caitlin ends up doing, it's the vehicle to get you to that point. So you always want to make sure that part doesn't fall off.
That's what makes her warning hit differently than your average media criticism. Portnoy can rant, analysts can break down the numbers, fans can ask for shoe refunds. But when the managing director of Team USA says you need to keep basketball the main thing, that's institutional. That's the person who controls one of the most valuable opportunities in your career, telling you directly that she's watching. Are you ready for the part that really matters here? Bird has both the motivation and the authority to act on what she said. Managing director means she manages the roster. She manages the culture and the standards of the program. And she just announced publicly what those standards are. So if Reese's performance and professionalism don't meet that bar, Bird isn't going to need anyone's permission to make a change. She already has it.
It's a balance. You have to find that balance. But when you look at some of the other athletes, particularly men, who've set a little bit of a blueprint in terms of the business and the sport, you never see LeBron miss a workout.
The question now isn't whether Bird was serious. She was serious. The question is whether any of this is actually getting through, because the next few months are going to show pretty clearly whether Reese heard it as a real warning or just more background noise in an off-season full of it. Dave Portnoy is not exactly known for measured takes. When he went after Angel Reese, it wasn't a careful breakdown of her game. It was a full-on rant. But here's the thing. Some of it actually stuck. And it stuck because it wasn't coming out of nowhere. It was landing on top of something a lot of people were already feeling, but hadn't said out loud yet.
Your first-round draft pick had the season she had, the controversy she had, got injured in a questionable injury, asked out, and then started a podcast gossiping about everything in the league as a rookie? Please.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Caitlin's head down, just in the gym.
Ready to go.
You don't hear a peep from her. She cares about you got me wound up.
The brand first off-season, the salary complaints, the edited gym clips. Portnoy just turned the volume up on a conversation that was already happening. People who follow the league closely had been quietly clocking the same things. He said it louder, messier, and with way less filter, but the core of it wasn't wrong. Then Shaquille O'Neal got involved, and he took it somewhere more specific. Shaq compared Reese to a role player in the NBA. Not a star, not a cornerstone, a role player. And look, when that comes from someone who spent his career being one of the most physically dominant players the sport has ever seen, it's not something you just brush off.
You know who you are? You're the female Antoine Jameson. You know who Antoine Jameson is? He got 20,000 points with his shot. Whatever your shot is. Like, everybody's shot ain't gonna be Steph Curry. Your shot is your shot.
Let's talk about what that comparison actually means. A role player in the NBA is someone whose value is narrow. They do one or two things well, and they do them well enough to stay on a roster, but only in the right system with the right pieces around them. You don't build your team around a role player. You don't hand them the ball in the fourth quarter. And that ceiling is very, very different from what Reese's brand is out here suggesting she is. Here's where it gets interesting. The stat padding question connects directly to this. Reese's rebound numbers look impressive on the surface, but analysts have been digging into where those rebounds are actually coming from, and what they're finding is that a big chunk of them are essentially set up by the offense. That's not the same as dominant physical rebounding that moves the game. That's being in the right spot when the math works out in your favor.
When she was literally the most inefficient player within 5 foot in all of the WNBA. Any which way you put it, she shot bad from the field. All right, she's 6'3" and she plays under the basket, and she shot 39.1% from the field.
But that's not all. Her layup percentage is a real issue. Her turnover rates are a real issue. These aren't small inefficiencies you tweak at the margins. These are the kinds of problems that good defenses target once they've had a full season to study you. And defenses always do the studying. That's the job. So the uncomfortable question is whether more time in the gym actually fixes any of this. Some of it probably can be trained. Finishing at the rim is a skill, and skills improve with work. But some of what these numbers are pointing to might just be the current ceiling of her game, and no amount of highlight clips from a workout session changes what the box score says on game night.
Angel Reese says WNBA players could go on strike over salary and benefits.
Career you choose, you should probably look at what the career earnings are of going into that field. What I'll also say is this: every single one of you WNBA players, you better pray that Caitlin Clark doesn't get injured. because she's keeping your league afloat.
Picture this. A defense that has already figured out Reese's tendencies shows up next season and finds that nothing has changed. Same spots, same hesitations, same turnover situations, because the offseason was spent on podcasts and red carpets instead of fixing the actual problems. That's not a hypothetical risk. That's a very real outcome if the priorities don't shift. The Shaq comparison isn't just a burn, it's a framework. It's a way of saying, here is the gap between what the brand claims and what the basketball actually shows right now. And that gap is getting wider, not smaller. Meanwhile, there's a player on the other side of this conversation who spent her offseason doing the exact opposite, specifically targeting the weaknesses the league found in her game and going to work on closing them.
Go.
Let's talk about what it actually looks like when a player treats the offseason like a head start. Clark is out there living her life. Golf tournaments, charity events, time with family, brand appearances, she's doing all of it. Nobody is saying she's locked in a gym 12 months straight with no breaks. That's not the point. The point is what's happening underneath all of that, because there's a very consistent thread of actual basketball work running through her entire offseason. And it's targeted specifically at the things the league tried to use against her last season. The left hand is the big one. Defenses figured out pretty early that they could shade Clark to her right and force her left. And while she handled it better than most first-year players would, she knows it's a gap. So she's closing it. That's not a general work on my game kind of goal. That's a specific surgical fix aimed at a specific weakness that specific defenses exploited. That kind of honest self-assessment is actually rare, and it's what separates players who get better every year from players who just stay the same.
I just come out here and try to, play basketball in a way that people love watching, in a way that is going to make my team successful, and the records and whatever, or the stats, that's just what comes with it.
The mid-range floater is the other piece she's been working on. Her college game was built around the deep ball and the pull-up three, and those are still weapons. But the WNBA closes out faster, the spacing is tighter, and defenses that take away the three force you to have something else. A reliable mid-range floater changes everything about how a defense has to guard her, because now they can't just load up on the perimeter and dare her to go somewhere else. She's adding a whole new problem for them to solve. She's also getting stronger. And this isn't just about taking a hit and staying on your feet. It's about finishing through contact at the rim, holding your ground on ball screens, and staying physically durable across a full season and into the playoffs. The WNBA is a physical league, and Clark is treating that seriously.
So you're starting from a very high place, but as Michael Jordan once famously said, right, the ceiling is the roof. And there really is no ceiling on Caitlin Clark's game because of her vision. I think the thing that stands out the most to me is her court vision. And when you're able to shoot from deep, the way she's able to shoot from deep.
Here's where it gets interesting. Picture a defender who spent all of last season watching film on Clark, building a game plan around her tendencies, feeling pretty good about the counters they put together. Then 2026 starts and half of those counters just don't work anymore. The left hand that used to be a giveaway isn't a giveaway. The mid-range pull-up she never took before is suddenly dropping. The contact that used to knock her off her line isn't doing that either. That's what targeted off-season work actually does. It makes last year's scouting report obsolete, but that's not all. The golf and the charity appearances aren't pulling her away from any of this. Clark isn't choosing between her brand and her basketball. She's running both at the same time without letting one crowd out the other. That's a completely different situation than what we've been talking about with Reese.
There is really nothing you can do as a defense but hope the ball doesn't go in the basket. That's the level of greatness that Caitlin Clark can get to, where the defense's only hope is that she misses.
And then there's the roster around her. Lexi Hull, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham. This is a group that can actually compete. And every single improvement Clark makes multiplies what those players can do. A more dangerous Clark off the left hand means more space for Boston in the post. A Clark with a reliable floater means Mitchell gets cleaner looks on the wing. The whole thing builds on itself. So what is Clark actually doing this offseason? Left-hand mid-range floater strength shooting accuracy, real fixes to real weaknesses, and none of it shows up in an Instagram post. It shows up in March, in a fourth quarter, when a defense is scrambling because the player they thought they had figured out just beat them with something completely new. Here's the thing about being loud versus being great. It's not actually about personality. Some all-time players are loud. Some are all over social media. The difference is whether basketball is still driving everything or whether it's just another post. Clark is building something that gets harder to stop every year. Reese is building something that needs constant outside fuel to keep running, and that's fragile, especially with Sue Bird holding real power over her national team spot. The 2026 season answers all of this on the court. The Fever are worth watching closely. Drop a comment on who you think comes out of 2026 looking better than they went in. Should Sue Bird fire Reese from Team USA? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.